Other companies are working to bring you specifications you can relate to. You can have an educated decision on your purchases. This is going to be a little bit different, more of a ranty type of thing where you kind of follow along as I try and figure out whether this knife is actually going to be kind of my choice for a Kershaw assisted knife. So this was provided by Randy, so thank you very much, because I had not been able to handle a knockout. So that's what this is. This is actually the model in 20 CV, so it is the more premium version. But even for a premium version, it's going to be coming in at $100, which is actually a really good price for this type of knife. USA made, 20 CV, blade about $100. So if it's just that you're looking for, this would be good to go as far as one to pick up. But as far as an assisted knife, kind of my standard right now is still the Blur. So I have the Blur in 30 S30V. So that's going to be this one here. So this is kind of my standard for an assisted knife as far as one that I enjoy, one that I like the most out of the assisted lineup. And this is an old model too. But it's just one that was customized to something that I really was kind of looking for. Because at one point they had a one that had this type of silver twill, but it was like a G10 faux silver twill instead of the actual carbon fiber. So that's what I was after on this one. So I guess apples to apples type of thing. If you were to get a S30V stock version, not customized, then yes, get a knockout over a Blur, because then with those inserts in it, it does not make it good in and out of the pocket, because it actually it can't ride all the way down into the clip, because it actually does not allow you to as far as the fabric. So that's where with these inserts, it allows me to use the whole clip for it, and actually is very enjoyable. But there's certain things about the knockout that I find it's a little annoying, or a little bit something that I wouldn't really enjoy as much between the two models. And that's kind of what I want to go over with that, and why I kind of draw away from the assisted side, because there are some good things to it, especially when you're first starting out, or you just like the kick that an assisted knife gives you. Then it definitely does have its purpose, because I even bought the new leak that they came out with, not this one of course, but they came out with a new leak with a reverse tonto blade, and then that one is in I think that one's in S30V too, but this came out with that one. It's a yellow with a black stonewash blade. It sold out the first day, so they had the first of their sprint runs, and then they sold it out the same day they brought it out. So that's a good thing. Depends on how much of them they produced, but it was available for a little bit of time before it sold out. So there was probably a good bit of run on it. So going back to this one, so Speedsafe is from Ken Onion. So he designed it, came out with it. I believe it is actually over for the patent on it. So we might see some other knives coming out with Speedsafe. Of course, probably not by that name, but there doesn't seem to be as much of a rush towards Speedsafe as there is towards Axis locks, because Axis locks, they were made even before they're actually available to be used in the foreign market. But as far as domestically, the first, I think, domestic one was a Perpetua, as far as this one by Millet. This is the mass drop one. So this was the first Axis lock, I think, when the actual patent ran out. That was actually production. But for these, there's certain things that I like about this, no matter if it was modified or not. So that's the closure. So with this one, without the flipper tab, it has no interaction. So as I actually close it, I can have it either touch my finger, or if I open it back up and I go a little bit lower, it will actually stop at the spring, so I'll get no interaction with that blade whatsoever, and then I'll be able to close it down. And this one actually has quite a bit less as far as a closing pressure, so it's about a pound or more less force to have to close this than to close a Kershaw Knockout. So to actually close this one, this is about almost like basically about 2.5 pounds of force needed to actually close it. This is about 1.5. So that actually already makes the Blur a little bit more enjoyable than the Knockout. Knockout has a harder thwack, but it's still pretty decent on both of these. Also, this has a recurve. Recurve's like already something that kind of makes people run for the hills. They're like, recurve, I don't want that blade. So that's something that is here that a lot of people won't like already. So yeah, apples to apples type of thing. This is still a better knife, but you do have the other one as far as the leak. And then you have an old one. So this is like the Echelon, but it's still still a Speedsafe knife. This one's like a G10 version, but no flipper tab on that one. And then you have a new one as far as the payout. So this one does have the flipper tab still, interacts with the finger, and then it would be closed down for that. So between these two, still this is a much less expensive knife. This is probably going to be running about 50, 60 bucks. Still $100, but more premium steels. So if you get the base model of the Knockout, you might be a little bit more into the line of this. But just with that closure side, it just takes away from the experience for me. In the opening, it's good, but closure is not too great. So even the Rat 2, so you still have kind of a two-part movement, so you have to get it disengaged and then you close it. But there's no loading up in that spring. So if you are taking your knife in and out of your pocket quite a bit, then you're going to have basically every time that you close it, you're going to have it basically to that halfway position, load it back up for that spring, deploy. And it doesn't deploy that much faster than a regular flipper tab or a regular thumb stud. It just is something that doesn't normally fail on you. So because once you actually get past that actual the actual load of it, it'll take over for you. So even if you try to fail it, it'll still deploy. And so that's the good thing about assisted knives, but just some practice and you'll get into the habit of actually being able to open it. So even CRKT has their opening for this. So assisted knives are out there and they have their purpose, but for me they kind of take away from the use and experience of a knife. So that's why even you have a flipper tab knife here, and then you could close it and then close it all the way. So that's just, for me, it's a little bit more enjoyable for that. Even the Benchmades, that's one thing that bugs me quite a bit. Personally, I don't like Benchmades as assisted knives because it basically takes it from a one-hand operation knife to a two-hand operation knife. Granted, you could rock it to the middle portion before loading up the spring, maybe push it on something, but then you're going to have to take it and then close it the rest of the way instead of just closing the knife down. So that's one thing that, again, assisted knives just have a little bit more steps to it. I will give you that initial kick and that initial opening, but as far as the closure side, that's where it takes away from me. So if there was anything that I could just open and close and then still get that from it, so that's where the dual action knives are another option for it. So you could actually have it that's an automatic, it's operated by a button, but it's basically you load the spring and then you could use it like a regular thumb stud knife and everything else. And if you wanted to have that quick deployment, that initial hit, then you could just operate the button. So that's one that is available from different companies as far as those dual actions. So you would close it, have that initial spring load, and then after that you would just have it like a regular thumb stud knife. So it would be kind of operating like the Rat 2, but you would have an operation where you could deploy it as a automatic knife. So not this one, but there are the dual action knives that, so it would operate the same way as this. It would open, close. You hand it to somebody, they'll open and close it. They'll just think it's a regular liner lock knife, and then you would actually be able to still deploy it as far as automatic opening. So that's the cool thing about that. So that's kind of the rant for those things. So weight-wise, for the Knockout, I think is a pretty good weight in comparison. So we'll go clear this off a little bit. A little unorthodox, so if you're still with me on this, normally the reviews that I have are kind of more to the point, has a little bit same type of feel to it for each one of the episodes, each one of the reviews. But this is going to be one that's going to be a little bit different because it's just one that I was able to borrow. It wasn't able to really carry it around. I didn't really want to carry it around too much for it. But this is going to be here, so basically 3.9 ounces for that. So that's going to be about 19 and a penny for that. So if you wanted to do off that the weight scale that I'm using now, so 3.9. Blur is going to be 4 ounces, so basically that's going to be a little bit more. That's going to be that full quarter that you're going to add to that for weight. But really, not much difference there between the two. So aluminum has that subframe lock that's patented. There's just a liner lock for this one here. So weight-wise, pretty similar for those. The reason why I'm putting these two together, because this is kind of my standard. This is the one that I was able to handle thanks to Randy again for that. Materials-wise, the Knockout's going to be the one that's going to be better in this orientation. There's going to be a higher grade steel than this one, both aluminum. This one does have the inserts, which are aftermarket, not factory, so you're not going to be able to get that. So this one, it's going to be about pretty comparable for that. Deployment methods, you're going to have two for this one. You're going to have only one for this one. But on the closure side, you're going to have a little bit more enjoyment for this. It doesn't always, it's not going to drop shut when you first get it, but after time, it actually does do that. We'll just drop onto the spring, then close the rest of the way. That's the same, going to be probably for both of them. So that's where deployment would win on this, closure would win on this, and then feel in hand, both of them are pretty good as far as how they feel. Use-wise is going to be really good on both of them. The actual sub-frame lock is actually really light, so I do like that more than the payout side. I guess it's a little bit heavier as far as being able to disengage the lock. So that's one thing that this has over some other ones as well. But this is going to be a liner lock, very light as well, so there's not really any type of win according to these two here in that category. Pocket clip side, this is where it's almost a win for this. It's a deep carry pocket clip. Deep carry pocket clips are kind of the rage. A lot of people like them. A lot of people want them. They won't buy a knife without a deep carry clip. But I guess my pushback on that would be, is that a benefit to you that it's a deep carry clip, or is it a benefit to someone else that's a deep carry clip? Because this would actually be able to be deployed, taken out of your pocket a little bit easier with having to be able to pinch the top of the knife and take it out. This one is kind of, in just taking out in and out of the pocket, it's a little bit more difficult with this deep carry clip specifically. Some of them are a little bit easier, but just for this one, I would actually give it to the Blur for having a better pocket clip. Uglier, yes. Use-wise, better. Visually, better here. So really what depends on what is more important to you as far as the pocket clip. And then also deployment weight. It's going to be probably about decent for both of them as well. So would this, if I did not have this, would this be a knife that I would pick up as far as an assist? Highly likely. So if you're in the market now for an assisted knife, the Knockout is a good way to go from being able to handle it. And it depends on also what you want for materials, because you do not need to get the 20 CV version. You're going to get one that has lower grade materials that will still do you very well, still be the same knife. It just would have a different blade on it. So that's something that this one offers quite a bit more. This one still has a little bit other materials as well. So you get, this is a lower grade, but again, with the stock inserts, it's not great. But you can get from Lynch Northwest. He does have a new clip, a deep carry clip for this, and I think it's like $19. So you could get a lower grade steel and then still make out pretty well, but you're going to be probably spending more on a Blur than you would on a Knockout. But I don't know. So Blur's good. Thank you again, Randy, for letting me handle it. It's not going to be one that I'm going to run out and pick up. I was glad to be able to handle it, to be able to experience it. It does have a lot of different ways to hold this. So you're going to have tip down carry right left. You have tip up carry right left. So you can put this anywhere. This one just has one side of it. Yep, so just one side. So tip down or tip up right hand. So tip down again. Tip down can be right hand, left hand, back pocket, shirt pocket. It's going to be one that you could put anywhere. It's not going to be one that will be dangerous. Tip up carry is going to be right hand carry against that seam. You're not going to want to run this left hand carry. Reason why is you don't want to cut yourself. So at least I don't want to cut myself. I would rather not have my hand meet this when I stick my hand into it. Get a finger, cut my hand open. Wouldn't be a good day. But definitely worth a check out. But that's about all I have to say about this one today. Thanks again to Randy, and you have a good day.